Hello, everyone. Today is the Edie Valley Jacket blurb. I did one for Das Vidania, and I thought it was good and fun and informative, so I figured I'd do it again. I'll probably do this for a lot of my major projects. This one won't be as long as the Das Vidania one, by any means, because I don't have to do the big trigger warning section, and I don't have to explain a new concept as much, but there are still some things I want to go over about the new Edie Valley arc, just so that everybody kind of knows what they're getting into and kind of knows what to expect. Because like everything I do, this one's going to be a little different than the last thing I did. So, if anybody's coming to this having no idea what I'm talking about, Edie Valley was a series of original stories I wrote between the years very late 2017 and 2020. I wrote them over the course of like 2.5 years. I wrote like 90 of them. It was a little crazy. And it was a series of original stories about this small suburb called Edie Valley and the weird people that live in it, like vampire history teachers and dragon librarians and stuff like that. It has been 3 years since Edie Valley. I've written a whole extra novel between now and then, but I never completed Edie Valley. I was always very clear that there was one more arc that I wanted to write before Edie Valley concluded. And this is it. We're finally here. Feel like I'm in the right headspace. I'm in the right place. I'm in the right everything to finally sit down and fucking finish this shit. So we're gonna finish it. I'm very excited. You know, a lot of these characters have been in my head for 5 years now, which is crazy. Some have been in there for more. Doug's been knocking around the old noggin for about 8 or 9 years now, which is sad. Yeah, so this is the final continuation of Edie Valley. I think it will be the best one, just because I've had a lot more experience writing in between now and the last Edie Valley arc for sure. My intentions has always been to go back to those arcs at some point and give them a good edit and give them a good polish and hopefully do some sort of print run of them. But that depends on you guys, and that depends on hopefully gaining a little more traction, getting a little more fans of the stories. Hopefully eventually. For now, I'm still publishing them and I'm having a good time. I'm having a great time writing them. I'm not as far ahead as I was in Das Vidania. With Das Vidania, I was mostly done with the story when I started posting it. I'm not mostly done with Edie Valley by any means. I'm about 12 episodes in of a planned slightly more than 30, depending on how you count it. I think like 35 was like my final count, and that was not counting some extra episodes. But yeah, so I'm not quite writing by the seat of my pants. I'm still leaving myself enough time to change things. Inevitably, by the time we get to the end of its run, I will be way less ahead than that. So luckily, I've tried to give myself enough of a head start that I can keep up with the release schedule. We'll see. I might have to take a break at some point in the middle. Hopefully not. I hope I can just plow right through it, but we will see. So, Edie Valley's back. What to expect? Well, the first episode, How Do You Know It's Over If the Third Act Hasn't Even Begun, was very dark. The rest of the arc won't be quite that dark. I think that's the darkest that it will get, at least as far as I'm aware of at the moment. Or at least realistic dark. So, because there's two types of dark when it comes to storytelling. There's realistic dark and there's fantastical darkness. Das Vidania was very realistically dark. I had to go over a lot of trigger warnings. A lot of very real shit happened in Das Vidania. Edie Valley is much more known for its more fantastical darkness. You know, you're much more likely to get poisoned by mercury gas and driven insane while a mad scientist cackles at you than you are to deal with, you know, real issues like in Das Vidania. I wanted this third arc to be a slightly more balanced combination of both of those things. Obviously, it starts in a very real place, and I wanted to start it in that real place to kind of just ground it a little bit before we go fucking off the rails into weirdness, because that's where it's going. But yeah, so it won't all be as dark as the first episode. It's gonna return to the slightly more light-hearted Edie Valley you guys all know. The difference is that, you know, these characters, while they're still technically teenagers, while they're still, you know, mostly 18 at the moment, that's kind of the transition point where you stop being a teenager and you start being an adult. So this new arc kind of has that almost slight undercurrent of things are more serious now, things are more meaningful now, things are more complicated now than they were before, which is true. You know, Edie Valley has been about my transition from my teenage years to adulthood, which is why I think I'm glad I waited till now to finish it, because now I'm fucking 24 years old. You know, I started this channel when I was 18, and now I'm in a place where I can look back on that transition and I can comment on it from that perspective instead of being in the middle of it, if that makes sense. So yeah, technically I'm still going through it. I'm still transitioning into adulthood. It's not been fun, but we do what we can. So this arc is going to be very different, you know? It's been 3 years since I've written ED Valley. I've changed a lot in that time. Like, a lot. Mostly in good ways, but, you know, people change and things change, so the writing will be different. I think the writing will be way better, at least mechanically, for sure. I mean, I'm very, very proud of my work I've done on it so far, and I'm very excited to share it all with you. One thing to keep in mind is that this arc is going to go in a very different direction than you're used to with ED Valley. This, you know, it's a hedgehog story. It's gonna go someplace unexpected, but this one's gonna go someplace entirely unexpected. So I ask that you kind of just try to go along for the ride. I promise you I'm going somewhere with it. It's not just a random idea I had and decided to play with it, because sometimes I do that. The whole of the arena arc is basically just, I had a random idea and let's play around with this. And I didn't flesh it out enough, and it needs to be fleshed out more. But keep in mind that this is where the story has always been going. Since probably about 2/3 of the way through the first arc, I knew that the story was going to end here. Because this third arc is the last arc of ED Valley, yes. But it's also kind of a transition into other things. So bear that in mind a little bit. It's still going to be the same old ED Valley tone you all know and love. All the characters are going to snark at each other constantly. They're going to be insufferable. It's going to be funny. It's going to be goofy. The humor's going to be stupidly dark at times, because this is me. But I've, honestly, after the really serious tone of Das Vidania, I've had so much fun being able to write jokes into my narration again. Obviously, you saw in the last episode that, I went a little bit ham with the really dark jokes because, well, A, it's Doug. And Doug's narration really suits that. But B, because I was just like, it felt like I was just removing shackles from my hands. And I was just like, jokes! Stupidly dark jokes! Let's go! Let's do it! But I've had a lot of fun writing this arc so far. And it's allowed me to go in a creative direction that I really haven't gone before a lot on the channel. Maybe a little bit with Sister Stukov, but I got to do some legit world building this time. And I'm really, really pleased with it, and I'm really happy with it. It's something very unique, and I'm very excited to share with you all. One last thing to mention, this was pretty short, but one last thing to mention before I go, is that some of you may have noticed I uploaded a weird video last week on Monday with a weird title. Some of you left comments suggesting that it was an ARG. This is not an ARG. It is part of the third arc of ED Valley. You might be wondering, why is it a part of the third arc of ED Valley if it's not me reading it? And that is certainly a question, isn't it? Note that if you haven't watched that video, you should. If there will be probably more that come out in the future, and you should watch those too. They are part of ED Valley. They will give you added context. They act as transitions. They act as like little like stopping points. They act as little like just asides. Watch them. They are important. Even if you have to listen to not me talk. Even if you have to listen to whoever the fuck is saying those talk. I think both he and I would really appreciate you doing that. So, I'm excited for the new arc. I'm excited for you all to see where it's going. It's gonna be a while, you know. Das Vidania took me like 4 or 5 months to release, a little more than that, and it was only 19 chapters. This is 35 minimum. There might be more. There might be more. We'll have to see, because I've got this one all plotted out. Unlike the first 2 arcs of ED Valley, I did not plot those out. I just wrote them. This one I've got all plotted out. Right now it's sitting at about 35 episodes. That may change. I don't know. It's going to be a journey. It's going to be a long journey. I think it'll be a fun journey. It's going to take a couple episodes, probably like a month's worth of episodes to actually like see where it's going. But once it does, I think you'll all be very pleased and very happy and very excited. I am too. Sincerely from me. Thank you for waiting so long. I'm pleased to see so many of you make that return from 3 years ago. And I'm so excited to finally show you all the conclusion of Edie Valley that's been swimming around in my goddamn brain for fucking 4 years now. Thank you guys all so much. And I'll see you on next Friday for the next episode.